Hi, I'm Christine from House of Smocking, and in this video I'm going to show you how to construct the pants from the children's corner pattern Wright. Once you have your pattern pieces cut out, so I have two for the front, two for the back in the outside fabric, and then I have the same in my lining fabric. And step one says to put the right sides of your fabric together and then join the centre seam, clip it on the curve, you can see how I've clipped it, and then press it open. So you can press it flat. So I've done that for both the back and the front, and then I've done that the same for the lining. So right sides together, the seam allowance is 1/4 inch on this pattern, clip the curves and then press it flat. So step one was to do the outside fabric, and step two is to do the lining. Step three is to sew the side seams from the bottom up to the marking on the pattern, which is just above that edge there, and then clip the edge to where your sewing line finishes. And we do that for both sides. So we've sewn it and we've clipped it, and then we've done the same for the lining. So we've sewn it and we've clipped it, both sides. Now for step three, this is the tricky bit, is you've got to put the lining inside your original fabric, the outside fabric, but matching the right sides together. So for the lining, you need to turn that to the right side. Okay, so then we pop the lining inside the trousers, and then we match the centre seam with the centre seam of the trousers. So now you see I've pinned across the top, so I've got the right sides together, so I've got a seam on both sides, and I've just pinned across the top edge, and I've done that for both sides. Next, what we want to do is we want to sew up the side of the placket on the front. So this is the front of my trousers, and I'm going to sew. Now this is where it's tricky to show you, but so I'm going to flatten that seam, and I'm going to sew from continuing that seam there all the way up to the top. So I've got my lining, I've done it in white so you can see the difference, and I'm going to sew my seam allowance up there and on both sides. Okay, so this is just the front of the pants, the two front halves, and you'll see that I've done my seam down from the top just to where the seam finished on the other one. Okay, catching both the lining in, but making sure that I don't catch the back in. Okay, keeping that separate. And then I've done the same on the other side. Okay. And that's the seam there. So that's the first step. Then on the back, what we do with this one is we make sure that the front half is out of the way, and then we sew from that, where that seam is, it's just gone out of focus, there we go, across there and then up. Okay, so we're going across and then up. So now I've done the back, so you can see how I've done my seam down and across, and it lines up. Let's see if you can see that in focus with that seam there. Okay, and I've done the same on the other side. So the last part of step 4, it says to trim the ravels. No idea what that is, but I'm just going to clip the corners. Okay. Because the next thing, and just tidy them up. Because the next thing we do is to, and then we press it. So we trim those, or we turn it to the right side, and then we press well. So I can take my pins out, and we'll turn it to the right side. So this is step 4 that we've completed. And I've turned it now to the right side, so I've got the right sides of the actual fabric, and the lining is the right way round. I've turned these to the right side, and this is what you've got. So you've got your little placket there, and then you've got your fold from the front. So that's how your side seam, for your side seam opening. Okay, you see that? And the same the other side. Okay, so now move on to step 5. So step 5 is completely confusing, so the best thing I can do is to show you how I'm going to do it. So basically you're going to sew a seam round from the front, round one leg to the back. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take these and I'm going to turn them, I don't know whether you can see, to make the seam that I want to do. So I'm just going to hold that and then turn it round. So that's the seam I want to make. So I'm just going to pin that. And then I'm going to work my way all the way along the bottom of the leg, pinning the two sides together. So you'll need to poke the trousers, the rest of the trousers into it, but if you pin the seams together as well, matching those seams, and then I keep matching that bottom edge until I get right to the end. Okay, so you can see it's turned sort of inside out. It all looks a bit of a mess, which is why it's difficult to see it in the photograph. But I've worked out that that's what I want to do. I want to do the seam along there, so I've just put my two edges together to start my off, and then pinned it. So I'm just going to do my side seam all the way along there, and then I'm going to turn it to the right side and press it. So here I've done one leg seam. So I've now got the front and the lining sewn all the way round for one leg. Okay, and I've turned it to the right side and pressed it. So to do the other leg now, we're going to do exactly the same. So I'm going to show you again how I did that. So basically I want a seam all the way around that leg. So I'm going to pin my two edges together to show me where I want that to be. Okay. In fact, I can do it from this side. So I'll just put a pin in there. Okay. And then, so that's where I want to be. I want that edge all the way along. Again, matching my centres. Okay, so you see what I've done? I'm just pinning my seam. So if you turn that, pull those two together, and you'll have to feed it through because it's attached at the sides for the placket. And then we've just got to keep feeding it through till we get the whole leg seam in place. And then you keep pulling through until you get to the edges. Okay. So then we sew all the way along that seam, from that edge all the way along, across the side seam, and that's attaching the front to the lining. And then once you've done that, turn it to the right side and then press it as I did for the other leg. So there we've finished step 5, and step 5 simply is doing the seam round from the crotch at the front all the way round to the back, and then doing the other one. Now you have to do them separately, otherwise you can't turn them into the right side if you try to do them both without doing a stage in between. So you do one leg, turn it to the right side and press it, and you'll see that there's a little overlap of the fabric. I don't know that you can see that better. Let's get it into focus. There we go. We've got a little overlap on the edge because the lining was cut 1/4 of an inch smaller than the actual outside trousers. So there we have steps 1 through to 5. So we've got our little placket at the side for our opening, and then we've got the legs bound. So I'll do the rest of the steps in another video while you tackle this one. Thank you very much.